G'day geeks, my name is Chris, and in this video we are talking about something very exciting, something I've been waiting for quite some time. I had to wait for it to come to Australia because it's not available here, but thankfully I did manage to get my hands on a copy. So it comes in this chunky white box. Doesn't look very exciting, but what is inside is very exciting indeed. So let's open it up and have a look. Cue some dramatic box opening music. And this is what we are going to look at. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I haven't even opened it, but I've seen pictures online, and it's got some plastic shrink wrap, which we're going to take off right now, and we're going to flick through the pages of the DC Comics style guide from 1982. Like a lot of people, I first discovered that this wonderful coffee table book was being released on the back of ads that were released halfway through last year. And this is an example of one. So the 1982 DC Comics style guide was an in-house, what it sounds like, in-house style guide used by DC Comics when people would approach them. You know, they want to put Superman on a lunchbox, or they want to put Batman and Robin on a set of pajamas or whatever. They would then give the companies these approved DC Comics licensing art and go, here we go, these are the pictures you can use. Go nuts. So from what I understand, that's basically what the style guide was, and they still have those kind of things around for licensing purposes for, you know, Ninja Turtles and whatever, Transformers and He-Man. You want to use some of that artwork on licensed products. So the 1982 DC Comics style guide was done by Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez. I've spoken about him a few times in the past. His artwork was used a lot during the 1980s Kenner Superpowers line of action figures. And it's very nostalgic for those of a certain vintage like myself. So all this artwork inside was done by him. And yeah, this is the first time it's been made available to the public. So yeah, enough talking. Let's get some gawking at some lovely pictures. The little yellow paper thing that goes on the bottom of the book kind of says what I mentioned. So this is a 1:1 scale reproduction from the 1982 style guide. It's got an introduction by Paul Levitz, who was the publisher, the president of DC Comics during that time, and that kind of tells you about the stuff that's inside. And as I said, available only in the US and Canada. Can't even get it in comic shops, unfortunately. I actually got this from a company called Organic Priced Books, and you can get it on eBay. I know mycomicshop.com, you can get it from there as well. They've got stock in line now, in store now. But yes, it wasn't a cheap exercise to get this book. It's not a cheap book, and I paid almost as much in shipping to get it all the way here to Australia, but worth every dollar. It makes me very happy that I have this, and I hope a lot of other DC fans manage to get a hold of this as well. So yes, this is a hardcover. It's single-sided, which kind of makes sense. So I'll explain why in a minute. But yes, this is the DC Comics style guide. Obviously, this video isn't going to do it justice because there's some beautiful art inside. Let's just zoom out a bit so we can get the full effect. So yes, we've got the old Warner Communications logo and the DC Comics old logo as well. Yeah, it's not a lot of content. In fact, you can see the contents page is pretty minimal, but that's okay. So it's basically just Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez's wonderful art, and there's a few things that kind of talk about this book, including how the founders of the Standards Manual, which is a company publisher that does a lot of kind of design books and stuff, found a copy of this, and they knew it was historically significant. So there's actually they have a couple of versions. So there's a 1982 style guide and the 1984, which includes updates. So it was basically a 3-ring binder, which was as I said, given to licensees who wanted to use DC Comics art on some of their merchandising and promotional and stuff material. And that's what these pages are pulled from. So yeah, it kind of talks about, again, the history of the book. Introduction with Paul Levitz, who was a writer, editor, publisher, president for DC Comics for many years, and an interview with Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez and Mary Yedlin. Kind of put this book together, and talks about Dick Giugiano, his contributions as well. He did a lot of the inking, and Dan Greenfield from the 13th Dimension website interview with them. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So basically at the time, 1982, there wasn't a standardized format. So from DC Comics saying this is the artwork you can use if you want to put, you know, Superman on a lunchbox or Wonder Woman on a pillowcase or whatever. So that's what this whole project was about, and there wasn't really a lot kind of at that time. It has been updated since. So as I said, there's been the 1982, 1984 updates, and then obviously with the animated Batman, the animated series, Tim Burton film, Batman films, there's been a lot of updates since. But yeah, it's pretty cool and a very unique part of DC history. So the first few pages are basically what the recipients, the licensees of this standards manual at the time, the style guide at the time, would have received, talking about, you know, how to use the artwork within this. And if you have any questions, reach out to DC Comics. But yeah, it's pretty interesting, and it's also interesting to note that the word superhero is a trademark owned by Marvel and DC. Yeah, a lot of people may not know that, but yes, superheroes is actually a trademarked name. And let's zoom out again. Here we can see some of the superheroes and the Pantone colors with which they are to be used. And yes, very interesting. You know, we've got all the you know, Zod, Ursa and Nine, I think, from the Superman films. We've got some pretty obscure characters there. Red Tornado and Firestorm, Zatanna, Elongated Man, Black Canary, all the favourite obscure DC Comics characters. We've got an update from 1988, which I'm sure would have been faxed or something, saying that they're changing the colours of the highlights in Superman's and Lois Lane's hair. Very interesting stuff. And this talks about so each character has a breakdown of who the character is, so not just showing artwork but who they are. And at this time, Superman not only worked as or Clark not only worked as a reporter at the Daily Planet, but he also worked at a TV station as well. So he was a reporter at the where was it, the Galaxy something or other, Galaxy Broadcasting Systems Evening News. So yeah, this is very current to the time. And I mentioned Supergirl, Crypto, all that kind of stuff, the elements of Superman mythos which are still around. And as I said, it's single-sided, even though that's interesting. Kind of shows the Pantone colour for the hair that is just mentioned. And yeah, this is a one-to-one reproduction, size and everything, and you can see it's from the 3-ring binder. And the about the book section mentions that they didn't really do any Photoshop or touching up. They removed some dust and that kind of stuff, but it's pretty much as it stood at the time. And this book does flip between portrait and landscape. So these are basically yeah, this is the first one, obviously Superman, and yeah, these are what's called turnaround. So it shows the full body of the character, and this is what Superman's costume looks like. But it's good that it's single-sided, so we get to see the full laid flat of all the artwork. Some wonderful Superman and Lois artwork there, colour and black and white. So there's something for everybody. There's the last of the Superman page, which shows Lana Lang, so even the supporting cast get their own little shout out. Now it's Batman's turn. Okay, we're on to Batman now, and I've gone handheld just to capture the full landscape portrait constant swapping of this wonderful book. And you will notice that some of these pages look familiar. In fact, DC Comics have recently been doing some variant covers of some of their comic covers focused on this very art featured in this style guide. So you can see there that that's the artist spotlight variant covers by Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez. So that's pretty cool. So you will see some familiar pictures throughout this book. You go, I've got a variant comic cover of that. So yeah, they did that I think late last year, DC Comics. So that's pretty cool. So yes, we have, this is the Batman section. Now we've got Batman, Robin, Batgirl. We've got some of the Rogues Gallery in colour and black and white. and I like the fact that he's really playing with typography and style, and kind of the way he incorporates the logos is kind of like what Will Eisner did with the Spirit covers and stuff as well. So yes, very, very cool indeed. Yes, I'm going to get a headache, aren't I? Constantly flipping back and forth between the different orientations, but yes, it's you know, there's so much in here, and I just love this kind of stuff. Very moody. That Batman logo is very classic to me, and yeah, so you can see that the licensees had a lot to work with. Very dynamic, action-packed poses, and it just doesn't just show the characters, but it shows, you know, the cityscapes and the vehicles and the villains and all that kind of stuff. So Joker with his classic superpowers, mallet, the Riddler with his classic butterfly catching net, and here we go, Wonder Woman, that was again classic character. Yes, very, very cool for sure. And that's a bit of a nod to the TV series of the 70s when she was changing into her costume in a very dramatic fashion. Invisible Jet, Steve Trevor, the love interest, World War II pilot, who's been featured in off the comics and various media. A bit of media, Themyscira, the island of the Amazons, a bit of space scenes. An interesting piece with a bit of you know, charcoal or grayscale kind of contouring tones. You don't really see that a lot. Justice League of America, so this is kind of very the JLA of the era. So you've got Aquaman, Alligator Man, Red Tornado, Firestorm, Martian Manhunter, Atom, Black Canary, everybody's favourites. I love the fact that he's got the what is commonly referred to as DC's Trinity, Superman, Batman and Wonder Woman, their faces in the background. It's a bit of an upside down one, some more upside down ones. Gosh, they really have done it, I guess, because the three holes in the ring binder, and then we're going in the opposite direction. So some lesser known characters like Dr. Fate, Green Arrow, Red Tornado, and some bios of who the actual characters are, going alphabetically, I guess. So yeah, pretty interesting that they even not just show you pictures, but show you some bios of the characters as well. Aquaman, that's a classic picture. And Mira, and a giant seahorse. So there's the Flash, some more, Green Arrow, classic logo, the goatee, Green Lantern. Yeah, a lot of these pictures look very, very familiar. In fact, I've got a t-shirt, I've got some stickers which have a lot of this artwork, and yeah, you just see, even, you know what, almost 50 years later, it's still kind of popping up, this artwork. It really is simplistic, the clean lines, very timeless, and that's why you just see it show up in a multitude of different licensing and merchandising opportunities. There's Firestorm, one of my favorites. Dr. Fate, again one of my favorites. Red Tornado, one of my faves. Martian Manhunter, a lot of these are my faves because they're lesser known DC heroes, and I had the toys, the Kenner Superpowers toys as a kid. I didn't have Cyborg, and he costs thousands of dollars now. Here we kind of talk about the Teen Titans, which were relatively new in the 1980s, and at one point I believe were even selling X-Men as the premier super team of the time. So yes, here's the Teen Titans, who have been around, you know, Teen Titans Go and the Titans live action series, and they've been around for many, many years. Still incredibly popular, and like all super teams, their roster has changed over the years. But I certainly loved Plastic Man, the sensational stretching sleuth. I love the alliteration and just the poses and the way he incorporates his stretching ability into the logo. I love that. And here we go to the Superpowers line, which is very famous of the Kenner 1980s action figure line, which is very beloved. And if you see that stars and see that logo, I've got a lunchbox with it on, and it's very familiar. And this is interesting. I don't know what these Super Juniors are. They kind of look like Muppet Babies or something. I don't know if anything was done with them, so maybe it just didn't go beyond this concept stage, but it basically looks like the Justice League as babies, as kids. So perhaps it was for a Plan TV series or something, but yeah, nothing really ever took off with it. Superman's eating his cereal. Yes. One last flick through, not doing it justice, but look at all the goodness. So if you're into like character design or classic DC Comics style, or even you're into obscure history and advertising and promotional materials, then especially if you're a DC Comics fan, this is got to be the book for you. So yes, the DC Comics style guide, if you can find it, definitely get it. Hopefully it'll be more easily accessible and released internationally at some point, but it's definitely worth tracking down.